Russian President Vladimir Putin has said he wants NATO to reduce its presence in Eastern European countries that were once part of the Soviet bloc, but his actions are achieving the opposite, said NATO's chief. If Russia attacks Ukraine, as it is threatening with a deployment of almost 100,000 troops, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization will further expand its presence near Russia, Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said in an interview. He said the alliance is assessing how it could do so. To Western diplomats, the divergence between Mr. Putin's demands that NATO retrench and Russia's actions, prompting the alliance to reinforce its front lines, has deepened doubts about Moscow's sincerity in recent talks. Russia has demanded that NATO commit never to include Ukraine or other new members, pull back forces from its east, and roll back to its smaller, post-Cold War size. Many alliance officials say they believe Russia knows its demands are non-starters and is only looking for a pretext to attack Ukraine. After talks with NATO last week, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Alexander Grushko noted that the Baltic members of the alliance are close to St. Petersburg. If NATO moves eastward, what should we do, he said to reporters. If NATO moves to a policy of containment against Russia, Mr. Grushko said, from our side it will be counter-containment. Since Russia in 2014 seized the Crimean Peninsula and fomented separatism in Ukraine's east, NATO has significantly increased deployments of troops and equipment in its eastern members. Other Russian actions since then, including suspected cyberattacks and operations in the Black Sea and Baltic Sea, have prompted NATO to expand its presence in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, which were once part of the Soviet Union, and in other former Soviet satellite states, such as Poland. Mr. Putin has long said NATO threatens Russia, and he wants a smaller allied presence near Russia's border. If his intention was to get less NATO close to his border, he has achieved exactly the opposite, Mr. Stoltenberg said. Every time he's aggressive, he gets the opposite. For Mr. Putin, the threat of stronger NATO forces on Russia's western flank is worth the risk, said Daniel Celigowski, senior research fellow on Ukraine at the Polish Institute of International Affairs in Warsaw. He sees Mr. Putin as motivated less by fear of NATO than a desire to bring Ukraine back under Russia's control. Russian officials have said that they are concerned the West wants to turn Ukraine into a sort of anti-Russia on its borders by providing sophisticated weaponry, economic support and political direction. For Russia, regaining broader control over Ukraine beyond Crimea and the eastern breakaway regions would nullify that Western threat while allowing Moscow to project power to its south and west. Mr. Putin is motivated by factors other than security. He routinely expounds on the closeness of the two countries' languages and cultures, tracing Russia's history back to Kiev and saying Russians and Ukrainians are one people. Ukraine is the jewel in the crown for Mr. Putin, said Mr. Celigowski. He has never accepted Ukraine as a sovereign country. NATO in 2008 offered Ukraine eventual membership, but the US and other alliance members have made clear they won't fight a war over it or defend it as they would protect a current NATO member. Instead, they have threatened economic sanctions on Russia and other measures, as well as an acceleration of NATO's revamp that began after Moscow's annexation of Crimea. That aggression triggered the biggest reinforcement of NATO since the end of the Cold War, said NATO's Mr. Stoltenberg. The alliance's expansion has involved the dispatch of thousands of US and allied troops to Poland and the Baltic states alongside new deployments of advanced weapons. NATO members have increased military spending by $260 billion over the period and are continuing to boost their military budgets. There are more US soldiers in Europe now than 7 years ago, Mr. Stoltenberg said of Russia's impact on NATO. We actually do more together in North America and Europe than we've done for many decades. NATO planners are assessing how best to supplement forces in member countries if Mr. Putin takes action against Ukraine, Mr. Stoltenberg said. Of course, if Russia once again uses force, we will step up again, Mr. Stoltenberg said. Exactly how, with what kind of capabilities, and where, well, that is something we have to decide in light of what actually happens. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week, it's 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.